Seeing here on CNN, Jeff Sessions, he's all fired up about separation of immigrant families and how it's legal and all that. And it's amazing. It's like a guy worrying about acne when he has cancer. This is the guy that recused himself on the greatest single issue of American jurisprudence since the Civil War, on whether or not the FBI can go rogue in support of one candidate over another and do multiple unconstitutional, illegal things that are nothing short of treason to our democracy and republic. And he's worried about this symptom of the greater destruction and deconstruction of America. So I left a couple of YouTubes before, and I woke up at 2:30 in the morning angry that I can't believe what's going on in my country. So I thought to myself as I awoke, as a precedent of Watergate, that famous battle cry of the liberal left, and how they tried to take down Nixon and eventually did with this conjured up nonsense that was Watergate. And that's all it ever was. The most egregious thing that Watergate was a cover-up. It was not a proactive crime or sin devised by the president, nor the FBI, or the institutions of our republic. What Watergate was a bunch of rogue political hacks. Some ex-cops that performed a break-in into somebody's psychiatrist office so as to besmirch them and compromise their candidacy. And that is egregious and it was wrong. But they've never proved Nixon had anything to do with it. They did prove that he tried to cover it up. And it was Republican leadership, Howard Baker, that said, "What did the president know? And when did he know it?" That was the sine qua non of the case of Watergate. When the crucible of the case was brought to the country by Republicans. It was Pat Buchanan who told Nixon it's time to go, his own press secretary. Now let's look at the liberals. Under Clinton, they had a candlelight vigil on the White House lawn defending his acts of sodomy, his illegalities that have brought us to where we are today, arming Korea and China with gyro guidance missile systems. That was us. We did that. I've always said this. As horrible as it was, the idea that Lenin professed one day we'll hang the capitalists with the rope they sell us. I always said it's worse than that. They're going to hang us with the rope we buy from them. And that's what the deep state has done. They've turned us into heroin addicts. We have destroyed the infrastructure of our economy for the sake of fascistic-minded deep state people who said we don't need these middle-class American jobs because we got Chinese and Indian slaves and we got millions of them. So 66,000 factories sent abroad times how many jobs? Let's say 500 a factory, do the math. And here's where it really gets evil when you tally up all the ancillaries, all the companies that supported those factories, dry cleaners, restaurants. I don't have to list them. You could use your imagination. But it's okay because we'll slap up Costco's and Home Depots. And that'll bring that big cash tidal wave to China. And these traitorous companies like Walmart, well, they'll give you cheap underwear and tube socks. So you're good. And our president's the bad guy because he looks at the ledger sheet like a good businessman does and sees we're being bled dry by the Germans, the French, the Japs, the English, the Chinese, the Canadians, without any redress. We're just supposed to bleed to death while they stick us like a stuffed pig. And we lose hundreds of billions of dollars in a trade deficit. But I digress. So let's compare Watergate with what we had happen here. A bunch of rogue cops. One was one of my neighbors. Yeah, the first guy. Ex-NYPD cop. The first guy indicted in the Watergate case. Got through a loophole that they closed, which set the table for all those other guys to have to do time. Chuck Colson, John Dean, Ehrlichman, Haldeman, all the king's men, right? That the liberal left, the Bernsteins and Woodwards, it's been their battle cry since 1973 when the movie All the President's Men came out. And if you ask 100 Americans what was Watergate about, they won't be able to give you a cogent answer because it was that obsequious and convoluted. It was nothing as clearly dangerous to our democracy as what we've just lived through in this epoch of Obama, Loretta Lynch, the weaponized IRS under Schulman and Lois Lerner. And now we have these frauds in the FBI. And this guy yesterday, with that sophomoric apology, he's going to give his FBI agents Starbucks training for political correctness. And that, hey, we only take in 5% of who we recruit. Why don't we sing the Green Beret song, Silver Wings Upon Their Chest, while they fist fuck our democracy? But don't worry, they're catching illegal drugs coming in from the border. Don't be perturbed that they're supplying them with guns under Fast and Furious and that criminal Eric Holder and Obama. No, don't be perturbed about that they were putting the most lethal armaments in the hands of Mexican mobsters to kill innocent Mexican people and Americans and our border agents. No, don't be perturbed about that. Be perturbed about the nasty things Trump says about fat, ugly female celebrities or degenerates like Weinstein and Robert De Niro. That should be so offensive to you. The fact that they steal your democracy right in front of your face. They engage in subterfuge and try to overturn the electorate. Don't be offended by that because the FBI is going into sensitivity training. So be alleviated. There should be a hue and cry of blood-curdling dimensions that this country hasn't heard since the Civil War. There should be anger among the people of this country, both right and left. And everything Kobe did was an absolute violation to our republic. And that should offend right, left, Democrat, Republican. We should all be equally offended by these people. Because what goes around comes around. And today, they did it to Trump. And I'm not naive. They did hurt Hillary Clinton with that nonsense that Comey came out with. But in the aggregate, he hurt Trump much more fundamentally. As a matter of fact, I'd argue that the castigation of Hillary just before the election was a CYA move. And you know why he did that? Put Hillary's egregious behavior out in the air because they at no time thought she was going to lose. And that's why they did it. With Trump, it was a whole lot different. They thought Trump was never going to win. So by coming out with anything in a condemning way toward Hillary and Trump could never be the same. Because one was taking a shot at the winner that wasn't going to lose. And the other were taking shot at the loser they never could imagine would win. And that would be Trump. The fact that Strzok is not in jail, his female counterpart with their love note emails of how they were going to single-handedly take Trump out. Could you imagine? And they're not in jail. And all the king's horsemen and all the king's men under Obama, and none of them have gone to jail. Unless you be fooled. Does anybody think this didn't come from the Obama White House? The fast and furious people, the weaponized IRS. This guy is a Saul Alinskyite by any means possible. He's a Bolshevik. And you people in this country better wake up, because you should be terrified, because the gas chambers and the gulags would have been already being constructed if Hillary had got elected. And I'm not being dramatic. All Obama did was finish the foundation laid by the Clintons. And when you hear this ridiculous FBI director talk about their recruiting and their protocols, who are they recruiting? They're getting them from Stanford and Harvard. That's what they're doing. You heard him say, we get people that could go work anywhere. Yeah, left-wing fanatics. And I'll tell you, they've infected West Point. Our republic is on the line right now. I'm not being dramatic. I know history. We are in the last stages of an empire, maybe the last stage. When you have Izvestia and Pravda here, CNN and MSNBC, just spilling bilge every night, acting like you're too stupid to decipher what they're really up to. So anyway, compared to Watergate, Watergate was the sinking of a rowboat. This is bigger than the Titanic. And without people going to jail, and I'm talking everybody from Obama to the Clintons and all the people that orchestrated this, nothing short of a revolution against an election. We are in big trouble.